Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this live stream. Right, I think we should be. Yeah, there we go. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this live stream on. Just one second. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, as always. Technology is always as good as the idiots who are handling it, or trying to get it to work. So, again, as I was saying, welcome to this live stream on looking at social media, its role in protests and movements across the world, and of course, with a special focus on India. Just right off the bat, I'd like to go through the way like this webinar is going to progress. So I'm going to introduce myself and then move on to my other colleagues. I'm going to lay a groundwork and then move to my other colleagues one after another, who will then introduce themselves and speak about it. And then hopefully we'll be able to take some comments and questions on the topic towards the end of the stream. So social media has always been regarded as a game changer insofar as movements and just transmitting information to individuals across the world. It's in fact during a recent court case in early last year, the Additional Solicitor General of India made a comment saying that the internet and social media are not like newspapers, where information just goes to 10 people or 20 people or 100 people and is essentially limited by the number of individuals within your physical periphery. However, social media has its links and has the ability to reach individuals with a far greater order of magnitude as compared to traditional media. Another very important thing with regards to social media for protests and movements is that social media and these sort of social networks are very key and critical for two very specific reasons. Right? One is that they open new paths for information to travel. So it's a decentralized network of information dissemination. And the second part is that they place individuals at the crossroads of these paths. So if I were to, let's say, communicate with another individual, I may put it up on Facebook or I may put it up on Twitter. But that one node that I can reach my 300 odd Facebook friends and my 50 odd Twitter followers. But then that leads to an exponential growth in terms of the number of individuals that they can reach. We've of course seen the importance of social media as a tool for protest and mobilization, particularly has been on the rise since 2011, and the most famous of these cases is of course the Arab Spring, the original mass protest that was really facilitated through the use of social media. Then, of course, we've got another one which not many people in India know about, but it's the Indignados of Spain, who were essentially protesting against austerity measures that the Spanish government was implementing to essentially reduce their costs. And finally, of course, the Occupy New York movement, which is also a very important case study in social media and the use of these decentralized information networks for mobilization, protests, and movements. So what I'd like to do first in this webinar is actually go to a colleague of mine, Fakira, who will of course be covering some of the laws in India, pertinent laws, and then we'll sort of go from there. Right? So Fakira, we're shifting to you right now.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I would be covering the law aspect of freedom of association online, and I'm going to talk about laws that affect freedom of assembly online. So starting with the IT Act, which regulates what we share online, which has been made which has been held valid by the Supreme Court in the recent Shria Singhal judgment, which allows the government to block the content which goes online directly or through the intermediaries. So the intermediaries are all the social networking sites that allow such associations to happen on their platforms. And if they deny the request of the government, they will be held liable for it. Moving forward, this Information Technology Act does not describe or does not give us a clearer view of what offense means under it. What kind of association would be harmful to public interest or national interest, as they say? It's not given clearly, and this unclearness of the law can have a very chilling effect on FOAA. Moving forward, this is not the only way the government can actually curb our online space, but also through network shutdowns. And network shutdowns are mostly under Section 144, where any association which the government feel can have an adverse effect on public safety can be banned or can be blocked. So most of the network shutdowns are done by through that medium, and they're not even supposed to be reviewed under a committee. There have been certain guidelines that are given under the Telegraph Act of 2000 that allow the government to put this network shutdown into certain categories, but it does not anywhere say that the government has to get the situation reviewed by a certain like a committee or something that can review it and then say that yes, this is reasonable and this is needed. Something more that I would like to talk about here would be the restrictions that are imposed and how they're really unreasonable in today's time. Because, see, today's time, information, there is so much information and there's so much knowledge on the internet that it's not just used for entertainment, it's used for various other aspects and things like that. So when the government curbs it, it in a way curbs all the human rights. So our Article 19(1)(a), which is freedom of expression, also gets curtailed when our freedom of association gets, because our freedom of association is a form of our own expression that we agree to form an association and we agree to let that association express our own expression. So when they curtail this, they curtail your freedom of expression, they curtail your freedom of equality, they curtail your freedom of life and liberty, and it curtails a lot of fundamental rights that a person has been enshrined by the government. Um, I would like to talk more about the recent Shriya Singhal judgment, because that is where the online laws actually came into play. Before that, there was not a lot of discussion by Supreme Court directly on online speech. Supreme Court in this judgment had very good pointers where it scrapped 66A, where it said that discussion and advocacy do not make incitement, that mere discussion and advocacy about certain topics do not incite people to cause certain harmful things to the public safety. But in the same breath, the Supreme Court held 69A, held 60, Section 69A and Section 79(3) valid, which allows the government to ban anything, any obscene material. So, in one breath, the Supreme Court does say that free speech has to be free, but in the same breath, it allows the government to curtail it. So there is no win-win in the situation, because the curtailments and the draconian positions are still there. I think that would be all that I would like to say about the laws that surround freedom of speech, freedom of association as regard to the social networking side. And I think we would move forward to our next colleague. Rajat would introduce you to her. So over to you, Rajat.
Thanks very much, Fakira. So just as a matter of just introducing Fakira, I think she forgot to do so. Fakira is an intern with us at the EF, and she is coming to us from the law school in Kashmir, and she's doing a lot of good work over there, looking at a beautiful mapping project on the different laws surrounding free speech and association in India. Next, but just to highlight a couple of things that she mentioned, is that the traditional view that we hold that that associations and assemblies and protests and movements are exclusively held within a silo of their own is incorrect. And in fact, there's a very strong relationship to free speech laws, such as Article 19(1)(a), which Fakir also mentioned. But let's move from there and actually come down to more real-world cases and scenarios. And here, what I'd like to do is actually go to my colleague Jayanti, who has a couple of interesting approaches from the grassroots. So, one second. Jayanti, no? Oh, there's a small technical error on their side. Just waiting on that. But another key element of looking at social movements is this beautiful paper that's actually been written by a few faculty over at the University of Pennsylvania, the Annenberg School of Communication, where they've talked about the periphery of protests, of offline protests, actually being very important. So the media dubs individuals who predominantly engage in online activism, such as just retweeting or sharing a post on Facebook, as slacktivists. And one of the key things that this paper found, and I can share a link in the description at the end of this thing, is looking at the importance of those actors at the periphery, looks at the impact that these actors have. So the findings of this report actually, and this is a very well written paper, it talks about having a core set of individuals who are highly motivated individuals who are on the ground in the real world protest, and they're actually starting the conversation on online channels. And then there is this larger periphery of individuals who are engaging with the discussion online. And though they just may retweet one bit of information, what's actually happening is that one bit of information then goes to their followers. So let's say if we've got 100 individuals who are retweeting information about this particular protest or movement, then that goes to another 100 individuals. So suddenly from a small group of, let's say, 10 people, you reach close to about, I think it's about 10 lakh to 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 individuals, and the scale of the reach and the exponential sort of growth in the reach is really quite incredible. And let me just check if the technical issues are sorted out right now. Yes, I think we've got them. So over to my colleague Jayanti, who will of course be looking at it from a more grassroots and real world perspective.
Thank you, Rajat, for sharing those wonderful insights. Hello, everyone. My name is Jayanti, and today I will be talking about how social media is making its way into the lives of rural communities of the country. So, my observation on the subject comes directly from the time I spent working with different rural communities from different parts of the country. While I was working on the Community Information Resource Center project. So basically, it's a project in which these digitally equipped community resource centers are established at rural and semi-urban parts of the country, and these are often places that are deprived of any digital infrastructure whatsoever. Before going any further, I would like to share this small fact with you. So, as per a report, by April 2015, there were close to 143 million social media users in India. Whereas in rural areas, the usage of social media platforms has almost doubled. And not to miss out on the fact that youth still continues to dominate the social media front in both rural as well as urban social media user base. Uh, Coming back to my observations, and I cannot stress enough that although the shift of interest on the part of rural users towards social media is slight, it is still remarkable, given that secluded regions of the country, underreached parts of the countries like Gadchiroli in Maharashtra or Baran district in Rajasthan are making their way into mainstream social media space. Given, of course, the increased access to internet connectivity, and not to mention more number of hands holding the smartphone. So I would like to quote an example for this. So in the month of March, a social media campaign was launched by our little team of social media enthusiasts. So a social media campaign was conducted in which women from various rural communities were asked to send their selfie videos in which they would express what Women's Day meant for them. So basically, the social media campaign was run in order to observe Women's Day. So in the beginning, we did get fewer videos, but as we kept posting them one after the other, it aroused certain interest amongst those who were shying off or simply they did not understand the point of this campaign. So when these women they saw their counterparts, uh, they saw their counterparts from different parts of the country voicing their opinion on, an open, social media space. They too wanted to join in the campaign. So we need to realize that unlike urban strata, the rural audience take time to understand and get sensitized towards the idea behind a certain social media campaign. But once you actually go past that barrier, you get tremendous results. So since this campaign, we have conducted similar social media campaigns connecting and bringing communities together to support a common cause. For instance, we recently conducted a social media campaign on National Handloom Day, in which colleagues working in rural parts of the country joined in with their respective communities and they posted selfies with their local handloom products. So they joined in with the national campaign of Selfie with Handloom. So we have our presence in some 22 states and they crisscross the nation, these centers. So imagine how regionally diverse this campaign was. So I would say that in a way, social media has given these rural communities a power to connect with each other. Otherwise, who would have imagined that the traditional weaving community of Barabanki in Uttar Pradesh would one day openly interact with the Ikat weavers of Barpali in Orissa? So, although the urban population is slightly past the phase of fascination around social media, we need to acknowledge the fact that the rural communities are still catching up. In fact, the rural communities have started to explore various ways by which they can make effective use of social media, and they are actually getting very innovative. So, for this, I would like to share one more example. So, our colleague who works in village Bhavan in district Aurangabad in Maharashtra, who also in fact belongs to the community, posted a social media appeal on Facebook asking people to donate and support for families affected from drought. Within a short span, a large number of donations, both in cash and kind, was collected and then was duly distributed amongst the drought affected. And these drought affected were also families in which farmers had committed suicide. So the donation material included all kinds of stuff. Besides cash, there were food grains, there were clothes, there were even stationery and school supplies. So in a way, we need to acknowledge the fact that social media has tremendous potential when we connect this particular platform with rural communities of the country. Furthermore, there are so many stories of impact that are made every day in our villages that often go unheard of. So these stories, when you regularly post them on social media, they are not only read by thousands of people, but then if shared, these stories are read by another thousand, making them viral. This doesn't even give these rural communities a sense of pride that their stories are being heard across, but it also gives the receiving end a way to get inspired. I believe that social media has, in fact, power to establish some this direct connect between grassroots and the global communities, forming a larger community that we can call a global community. There is a school of thought which says that people now that are connecting with social media is actually getting away from the community life. I differ from this. I believe that people are not moving away from the community life. People are in fact joining in a larger community. This is where I would like to end. And I'll give it over to Rajat. Thank you.
Thanks, Jayati. Before actually we conclude on that point, you've mentioned one very interesting point within your statement and your remarks was about the selfie with handle. And I think it's a good point right now. I'm going to ask you this. I would have reserved this for the end, but I think it sparked an interest in my mind. So therefore, I'm going to ask you this. What are your thoughts with regards to the selfie with daughter campaign that our Prime Minister started, I believe it was last year, as a sort of look towards encouraging uh, young women, children education, and stopping female feticide, promoting the father-daughter relationship, and so on and so forth. Do you I mean, if you could just share some thoughts on that, that would be really lovely.
Um, okay, so the this mindset of this preference over a male child and killing off the female child is so much ingrained some in certain parts of our culture that I don't. It's actually very difficult to erase this mindset and replace it with a new one. But I think the selfie with daughter campaign to a certain extent would have worked because it actually started trending and a lot of people became sensitized towards this issue. Otherwise, this issue was probably just acknowledged only to the urban areas. And since the campaign also penetrated and went into the rural communities, so I think to a certain extent, this might have worked. Although I don't really know in numbers the efficacy of this campaign. I don't know, whether a certain research has been conducted following this to see how much impact it sort of generated, because it's very very difficult to you know change a certain mindset which is so strongly etched into into a large section of our society. But I believe that this is just a beginning. I think more such campaigns if launched, then it would be able to create a stronger sort of impact. But I would definitely say that to a certain extent it would have created an impact. So I don't really know if it was very effective, but even if it was 1%, then I totally congratulate those who were a part of this campaign, and I thank them for that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jayanti, for all of that. It was really good, and thanks for engaging on my questions. In fact, we've got a comment on our YouTube channel, which is Mr. Satyendra Singh, who's saying that social media can also be used to influence political participation and civic engagement. And I think this is a very important statement, and I think it's perfectly timed because we're actually going to jump into another colleague of ours. Unfortunately, her laptop's causing has huge problems, so she likes to be joining me on this particular camera in just a bit. But she works in one of our projects that specifically looks at the access to information surrounding schemes and government entitlements. And one of the key elements within the effective implementation and provisioning of these government services is, of course, the accountability and transparency of the implementing process surrounding these projects. So she, of course, should be coming in any moment now. If you just excuse me for 1 second. Right, sorry about that. But it's a very interesting thing that even Satyendra mentioned, and I hope that my colleague Deepshika should also be able to engage on quite extensively, is looking at the implications that how when a conversation begins at a local scale, at a small level, and very similar to what Jayanti also mentioned, that it's a small social media campaign that gained traction. And that's very interesting because that's another element that even some of the research work surrounding online protest movements also shows, that at the start, the time frame for these social movements are actually very wide. Uh, progress can happen in terms of days, in terms of weeks, in terms of months. But when a campaign really gains traction, when it reaches that critical mass, is when time becomes fluid to a certain extent, because the change and progress within the campaign can actually occur. It goes down. It goes from days to hours to minutes and sometimes even seconds. And at that time, it has to slow down again. So what's interesting also is that I think with time, there's an accordion, sort of this very gradual effect of time slowing down and time speeding up with regards to the progress of a session. Now we're going to see if Deepshika can hear us. Deepshika? Deepshika, can you hear us? No, okay. So we're going to shift to Deepshika just now. Give me 1 second.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, hello everyone. This is Deepshika. So I'm going to basically talk about the transparency and how social media can be useful in terms of transparency and accountability. So firstly, I would like to share one.
Deepshika, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is coming extremely muted. Can you maybe move the microphone just naturally down as it's hanging instead of looping it around? Yeah, just keep it naturally. Yeah, maybe that's the issue. Okay, we're going to try that again and let's see if that works.
Yeah, it's working now. Okay. Um, okay now. So hello everyone. Yeah, this is Deepshika. So, I am going to talk about the transparency account and accountability component of how social media is impactful in terms of transparency and accountability. So, firstly, I would like to share one recent very good example of how social media has was really affected in terms of the transparency and accountability. So recently, there is this group who have initiated, who have actually, who are the actual uh, this RTI movement, who have actually started this RTI movement called MKSS. Their organization is MKSS, and they have recently started a transparency and accountability yatra. So that yatra, so there were so many other groups were also involved, like it's SR Abhiyan. SR Abhiyan is a network of over 100 civil society organizations and citizen groups, and these people work on issues of information, employment, and social sector. And so this yatra was basically about raising awareness among people about their rights, and collect their grievances, submit them to the state. So it was a 100-day yatra wherein a group of 70 to 80 people were moving throughout the Rajasthan, which is, if I will say, it's around it's so there are total 33 districts in Rajasthan, and they have covered each and every district, and they stayed at least 3 days in one district, and there they were collecting grievances of the people and beneficiaries in the areas of pensions, rations, and these are the issues. So uh, this yatra about this yatra, we have made a WhatsApp group, and in that WhatsApp group we have connected so many people. So it was a very useful tool for those even who were not able to join us
You were not able to attend the yatra? Yeah. Okay, okay. So, yeah, I was. Is it fine now? Huh. So, this, I don't think.
So it seems that Deepshika actually has to be somewhere. So what we do is, Deepshika, if you could just spend maybe about a minute more to close up just a larger argument surrounding the use of social media for transparency and accountability and advocating for transparency and accountability, particularly with regards to your learnings and your on-ground experience from the MKS Yatra. Because I know that the MKS Yatra was assaulted in Rajasthan, and a lot of the members of their team was attacked. And I believe social media played a large role within making that protest known to individuals, making the assault known to individuals. So if you have anything else to share, then I know you have a meeting right now, so I do apologize for taking too much of your time. So you can just sort of close up in about a minute or so.
Yeah, okay. So, this yatra, after 30 days when this yatra has passed, so there was this district called Dungarpur. So, because the yatra was so effective in terms of collecting the grievances and the government was so pressurized during those 100 days, the MLA, his name is Kumar, I don't know the exact name, but this MLA has attacked the whole yatra, and it was very shocking incident for all of us that this something like this could happen to us. So when this yatra was on air and it was on social media platforms and there were so many press releases regarding this, so बहुत बहुत सारे न्यूज़पेपर्स में देन इधर फेसबुक पे सभी जगह पे इस अटैक के बारे में काफ़ी कुछ आया एंड देन उसका बहुत ही एक अलग इम्पैक्ट हो अदरवाइज गवर्नमेंट जो एमएलए पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर था कि इस इंसिडेंट्स के बारे में ना बताया जाए बट बिकॉज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया इट गॉट so highlighted and now it is this incident is known all over the country because of the social media. Yeah, Rajat.
Okay, lovely. Thanks so much. Sorry, Deepshika, I know we're taking up too much of your time, so we're going to just skip back over here. Lovely. So one of the key things that Deepshika highlighted, I think, which was very important, was, of course, the understanding that social media has a large role to play, not only in terms of making incidents of assault and sort of the attack on transparency very vocal, but of course the very nature of the activity itself is very important. That I mean, the MKS Yatra, to my knowledge, also used the power that multiple individuals can bring to a movement to really sort of act as a force multiplier in placing that pressure on the government and asking for transparency and accountability within governmental processes. So it's not a protest from the Arab Spring or Occupy movement point of view, but there have been many more cases, and we're going to go to some more famous cases towards the end. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hop over to my colleague Raina, who is going to step away from what we imagine as from a traditional approach to social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, chat, Snapchat, YouTube, etc. But actually go into something that I consider, and this is my personal opinion, a very important force multiplier, particularly in the Indian context, because where we've got a country with 71% mobile penetration across the board, but only 3% to 4% internet access, social media is still very important for a very creamy layer of society. It has a very middle class veneer to it. And I think to unpack that, what's very important is to look at the impact and the power that mobiles themselves have on campaigning and protests and starting movements. So we'll skip to Rainer. Rainer, if you're online, could you just introduce yourself, and then we can start with you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajat. Hello, everyone. I'm Rana Agarwal, and I'll be talking about reimaging the traditional social media for information dissemination. So, as Rajat said, the social media like Facebook, Twitter, they are basically the indispensable tool for us, and they are just like the companion to all of us. And it has greatly assisted and helped people to publicize their opinions on the social issues, be it the domestic violence or the child marriages, and so more. So these social media basically help the people to publicize their opinions, their views without any hindrance, and the challenges that they face in terms of the media like the Facebook and the Twitter. So, but what about the people who don't have the internet access, or basically what about the people who are illiterate and who don't have the internet access? So, which network covers them? So, talking about all these things, the projects like the CGNet Swara and the Gram Vani, which is also known as the Mobile Vani, they are basically giving the voice to the rural people, to the people at the grassroots level. They are using the low-cost platform called as the interactive voice response, that is also known as the IVR, which are enabling the people at the grassroots level not only to share but also to create the content of their choice, be it the social issues or be it their personal issues. And these IVR system is basically a very simple platform that is easy for the people to use, and the people just have to give a missed call on the given number that are basically provided by these projects. And this, after giving a missed call on these numbers, the server calls them back, and the IVR systems gives them the options to leave the message and hear a message back from the server. So the content of a message is basically a mix of the traditional media, such as the folk songs are there, tales are there, questions and answers, and the discussions are also held in basically on these platforms. So
Rainer, I think we're facing some slight audio errors on your side. Could you maybe try again?
hello, am I audible now? Okay.
Yeah, it seems we're still having minor issues with Rainer's mic. So we seem still having issues with Rainer's mic. So just if you just okay, 1 second. I think what Rainer highlighted was a very important thing over there, was the importance of the mixture of the oral medium alongside that the impact that social media and these information networks allow you to have, because social media, I mean, traditional social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter. I can't believe it's traditional today, but yes, traditional social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these they preclude the importance of having a degree of literacy. And I think that what Mobile Vani and CG Netswara do is go beyond that. By transcending the barrier of literacy, it lends a voice to people, quite literally and figuratively. And I think that's very important. So let's just check if Rainer's audio issues are sorted.
Hello, am
Yeah,
I
okay.
audible now? Okay. So, if talking about the efficiency of this CGNet Swara, I would like to quote an example where GB Corp, who is an owner of the largest circulating newspaper in Chhattisgarh, acquired a coal mine in Dharma Jaigarh in Chhattisgarh. And despite the rigged public hearing, local media ignored the story. However, following two reports on Swara about the public hearing, three national newspapers did elaborate stories leading to the cancellation of the allotment of the coal mine. So basically, this case shows that how efficient is the CGNet Swara is and how is it providing the voice to the local people at the grassroots level. So basically, we can say that the CG Netswara and this Gram Vani are basically are the platforms for the rural people, and that enables the people to share and create their own content. So over to you, Rajat.
Okay, thanks very much, Anna. And just before we go away completely, I'd like to just keep the focus on you for a minute and just ask you a couple of questions surrounding your experience and what you're talking about from CG Netswara and of course Mobile Vani. Is when I mean, so just for the benefit of the audience, DEF did conduct a extensive study of both these projects late last year, surrounding, of course, the community reach, the engagement with various stakeholders across all levels, and so Raina, I mean, I know you've been instrumental in that particular report. So would you like to maybe share some sort of insights from that perspective? What was the impact of CGNet Swara or Mobile Vani? Were they able to really reach the community to the extent that to affect real change at the grassroots? And I mean, I know from personal experience that there is another colleague of ours from one of our field teams who regularly receives calls from his friends who fall within the CGNet Swara and Mobile Vani ecosystem area, the sort of geographic footprint of these two projects, where his friends are just sending him either a song or a poem or a quick story or just some sort of anecdotal joke or something. So, but I know that it has had an effect with looking at the government. So, just hoping that we get something from on that perspective from Raina.
Okay, Rajat, during our MSBC, that is Mobile for Social and Behavioral Change, we did basically a primary survey where we interviewed the key stakeholders of the particular project. So, after interviewing Subhranshu Chaudhary, who is basically the founder of CGNet Swara, he said that the CGNet Swara is an experiment. It's a first experiment of its kind. It was mainly focused on creating a foundation, a path which others could follow, but it is still far from being a model which others can copy to make a sustainable and democratic community communication platforms. So basically, this was a verbatim that was said by this founder of CG Netswara, Mr. Subhranshu Chaudhary. And speaking about the views of the community users on the CGNet Swara, basically they said that 85, while we interviewed the people, it came out that the 85% of the people feel that it gets connected easily. Means the CGNet Swara, the application that was there, means the IVR system, was basically the user friendly. Means the people were not facing any challenges or the hurdles in using the applications. So people said that it is a user friendly, and simultaneously it provided them the platform to discuss upon the various issues, be it the child marriage or so on, and also help them to engage in the community dialogue, which not only help them to boost their self confidence but also help them to solve their personal problems and the social issues. So that's it, Rajat.
Okay, thanks very much, Raina. So now, what our intention is to actually go over. Why isn't my camera switching on? There we go. So again, just to reiterate and highlight some elements of what Raina spoke about and the sort of success surrounding and the uniqueness of CGNet Swara and Mobile Vani is, of course, that it transcends a traditional literacy barrier that is required, that digital literacy as well as traditional literacy barrier, that an individual does not need to know how to read and write to communicate their information across a larger network. And that is really at the end of it, at the core of CGNet Swara and Mobile Vani, their strength. And it's very important for change makers, NGOs, civil society, even intermediaries in social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, to understand that traditional barriers to engaging on social media platforms such as literacy and digital literacy have to really be transcended, and actually support, and very strong support to the oral medium really needs to be brought in. And of course, Facebook and all the other major institutions are doing this. There's Periscope, there's the Facebook video, there's Instagram, Snapchat, all of which have started different video services of their own. And I think that's very important. Now, looking at social media for protests and movements in India, it's a relatively newer concept. Of course, one of the most famous implementation, two of the most famous implementations of social media for any sort of movement was, of course, the recent elections in 2014, where you've got a massive coordinated social media campaign by the now ruling party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP, to promote Narendra Modi's stance on various topics, and then, of course, subsequently led to that victory. But on the flip side, to a certain extent, there was the sort of conflict between a more traditional poster and flyer-led media campaign that the Aam Aadmi Party did in the Delhi elections versus the massive social media campaign that the BJP again went back to during the Delhi campaign, and how that sort of fell short, of course, for many other reasons, which we don't want to get into in this session. However, it's important to sort of look at social media for these movements not as a silver bullet, not as a panacea for everything, but really one of the various ways in which individuals and organizations can approach different questions and constructs. So now what we're going to do is we're going to quickly hop back to my colleague Fakira, who has some very beautiful case stories of major and some very famous successes and failures in social campaigns, in civil society-led campaigns, and individual-led campaigns, citizen-led campaigns that leveraged social media quite extensively. So we're going to shift over.
Thank you, Rajat. Thank you, Rajat. So I'll start by talking about internet and how social networking sites have become an important tool for raising voices and concerns and share views and opinions. In India, the social networking scene has made it really important, the campaigns to go online so that they create a mobility, because that has the mobility that we garner through these social networking sites is irreplaceable, and these movements would never garner such support. So certain aspects or certain case stories which have resulted in millions of people attaching themselves to movements they would not even think about, starting with the Pink Chaddi campaign. So this movement let this online movement go offline. The story behind this movement is that 40 women started this page called the Consortium of Pub Going Loose and Forward Women. What had happened in Bangalore was that these women were attacked by the right wing party known as the Sri Ram Sena, and they attacked these women and men in the pub, and there was a great moral uproar where women were seen, it was seen immoral for women to go to pubs. So what these women did, they started a Facebook page, and which has 40,000 members as of now, and they started this pink chaddi campaign where they sent pink underwear to all of these right wing people, and these underwears were coming all over from abroad to India, because it led a massive uproar in the Indian scene as well as outside India. And these right-wing people really got these underwears, and they even felt the need to step down. They felt that India is progressive and their orthodox needs would no longer work. And this campaign was successful, even though these women, when you talk to them, they also had an opinion of the women who did not agree to sending these pink underwears by saying that we know how strong a grip all of these people have over our rights. Like, they feared that their movement, their existence could be challenged by doing this act. But however, this got a real uproar, and people were actually talking about it and supporting this movement. So now this was a very social, women-related movement. The next movement that India saw, which went from offline to online, or online to offline, both, it created a track of both the worlds that we live in, was the Anna Hazare movement during the Jan Lok Pal Bill of 2012. When Annaji started his fast, you had hundreds of Facebook pages liked by millions of people, and the word spread, and there was actually an impact on policies that we have now. So now you see the impact this freedom of speech and freedom of association did on our national policies, and it created an uproar in the political system of India. It challenged them. So um, this was a good space that we all have achieved through this freedom of expression and association that we could garner online, because online is easy, simpler, and because humans are lazy, it is much easier to click a petition and like it rather than just going there. And by clicking a petition, you are making the same change you would do if you physically sent a letter or physically went there. Moving forward was the Save the Internet campaign, which garnered millions of people towards saving the internet, and it actually challenged uh, highly rich corporate bodies like Airtel and Facebook, who were trying their zero rating services in India. And the Regulatory Authority of India actually released a consultation paper in March seeking comments on the definition of network neutrality in India. So what happened was, when this was relieved, AIB, All India Bakchod, a comedy this group online created a YouTube channel, a YouTube video, which talked about how this net neutrality would affect our internet and how it would not save our internet. And this got 3 million views, which further was emancipated by these people creating the Save the Internet website in contest to the consultation paper that TRI had released. Instead of the limited 18,000 replies to what the TRIA was expecting, it got millions of replies. People replying to a consultation paper in India, and the successor called Nikhil Pawa, who made this campaign, who was the brain after this, he said that this worked because it was online, because it was people sitting in their bedrooms doing and making change. You didn't have to go there. You don't have to convince people to move to Delhi, because Delhi is where all of the policies are framed. So it was easier, it was simpler, it was accessible. So it was a good thing. It actually meant a new scenario. Imagine that democracy could all now be exercised in its real form, where people from all over India could make changes, and the government would actually get a response for consultation papers, where people would really be interested in stuff like that. So this was one good story. Another success story was the Kiss of Love campaign, where the Supreme Court, because of the campaign, said that kissing in public is not an obscene act, and you cannot have criminal proceedings for it. What happened in this story was a cafe was vandalized by certain people, saying that they had immoral activities going around there. So this campaign spread online, and people were talking about it, and it had millions of likes, and people were talking about this new issue where in India you are not allowed to kiss in public, and it could actually land you up in jail. So people were talking about these things. Now, if you see in all of these stories, you can see this really good activism happening from the common people India who are burdened with work, but still they can take out time for bringing these beautiful social changes in our society. This is such a good example of how we're becoming more interactive, more democratic in our ways, because internet and the social networking websites have allowed us and have given us the space to do so. My last success story is a beautiful story which happened out of the worst experience a woman had to face during the Delhi gang rape attack on a woman. So the certain men in Bangalore started the skirt issue where 500 men all over India wore skirts in ode to the woman who was raped brutally in Delhi. This also sent a social message that people had to talk about women rights, that our women could no longer be raped and brutally vandalized and killed, and nobody would say anything. And if you know, during the Nirbhaya Andolan, it was all because of this mass movement that pressurized the courts to start making a change. You can see the activism, the democraticness of all of these beautiful success stories that happened in India during these times. So these were all of the success stories that internet allowed to happen, and how important this space is now, so that you can take charge in your own hands. However, there are the restrictions which was imposed on these sites, as I earlier talked about the laws, how network shutdowns affect certain things. For example, there were network shutdowns in Gujarat during the Patel movement, or there were network shutdowns again in Gujarat during railway examinations so that people could not cheat. And there have been innumerable of network shutdowns in Jammu and Kashmir without any reasons, without any legitimate reasons given by the government. I have an entire list which we can give you on how many network shutdown has India seen since 2013, and the number is growing by the minute, and how many things that the Facebook had to take down from its sites because the government asked them to do so, and how it's on the rise, and how we should speak against our rights on the internet, because they are our fundamental human rights. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for patiently listening to me. I would hand over to our moderator for the day, Rajat.
Okay, thanks, Fakir. Thanks very much for that. Second. There we go. So what Fakir mentioned here was very, very important, because she's talked about various cases that of real world citizen-led, civil society-led or protests or movements that have now gained traction, how they gained traction, and the kind of change that they affected. One of our viewers, Ravi, just mentioned the ice bucket and its sister, the rice bucket challenge. Of course, the ice bucket challenge, for those who don't know, was a campaign that was started to promote awareness surrounding ALS, which is a neurodegenerative disorder that essentially decreases the amount of gray matter in your brain, leading to cell death, and then progressively leading to shutdowns of higher functions, and then so on and so forth. So the ice bucket challenge began predominantly because as an individual would pour cold water on their head, it would simulate the shutdown, that shock to the nerves would simulate that shutdown, that and the numbness that an individual with ALS goes through as his or her disease progresses. Of course, the Ice Bucket Challenge gained wide-scale impact, wide-scale popularity. Very, very, very famous individuals such as Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg himself engaged on the campaign. Elon Musk also, if I'm not mistaken, also engaged in the campaign quite famously. And they poured an ice bucket full of ice water on themselves, and then challenged 3 more. And just that simple act of not only them putting up the video of undergoing the ice bucket challenge, but also challenging 3 other individuals, and their networks led to the sort of almost again exponential growth of the movement. Of course, the sister project is on the Rice Bucket Challenge, which was very similar. It was regarding food shortages, and it went through a very similar methodology. But so as we're coming to the close of our webinar, what I'd like is probably to go around once again and maybe get any final thoughts and words in from our various speakers. Deepshika, of course, is not here because she had to run out for a meeting. But let's maybe go with Jayanti. Any last comments, any last words on where do you see social media or even these information networks that are empowered through technology, digital means, internet, mobiles, or even just plain old calling? How do you see them sort of progressing and evolving within India in the next maybe 5 years? Just anything on that, and then anything else that you'd like to add.
Thank you so much, Rajat. All I have to say is that we all have actually realized the power of social media. And we should not deny the fact that right now penetration of social media is probably only till that the urban stratum. It has immense potential in the rural scape, and it has made a breakthrough. It's still, we still have a long way to go. Although, I'm sure of one fact that within these 5 years, we are definitely never going to reach a saturation point when it comes to social media, because we still have a long way to go, and we already are seeing results. We just quoted few examples of activism here and there are so many which can actually come up on social media every day, which we are seeing. And at the same time, I also believe that social media is that one platform in which, even somebody who does not know how to read and write can actually access and understand social media. So much fascination people have for Facebook and for Twitter. They somehow cannot read a book, they somehow cannot read a newspaper, but they can read posts and they can understand posts and shares and comments on social media. Such power social media has. um, I, I I actually also I have an in fact I have an interesting thing to share with you all, that we went to this village in which we asked people whether they have internet access, and they said no. But when we asked them, do you have Facebook, they said yes. So such level of understanding for social media we have in our rural areas. So yeah, so I believe that we have tremendous potential when it comes to social media, especially with respect to rural communities. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that, Jayanti. It's interesting that you mentioned the thing about individuals really having um, that, that differentiation between the internet and social media platforms like Facebook not entirely clear. But thanks. And what we do is now we'll go across to Raina, if she has any final thoughts on the matter, any last words, comments, new insights from the other conversations that our other speakers have had, or anything else that you'd like to add.
Thank you, Rajat. So to conclude, I would just like to say that the projects like CGNet Swara and Mobile One, basically these are the low-cost IVR systems, which are basically equivalent to the Facebook, YouTube, and the Twitter for the rural areas, for the people who are illiterate, for the people who don't have the internet access. So basically, these platforms are not only helping the people for in participating within the community to have the to help and to improve the condition of the individuals in the community, but also to shape their future. So in last, I would just like to say that these both projects are transforming the information dissemination and also the negotiation of the power. So over to you, Rajat.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Raina. And there was an interesting comment by one of our viewers, Tushar, who's talked about the use of social media after the Nepal earthquake. And I think, of course, after any major disaster, there's this new school of thought looking at technology for disaster management. And no doubt, social media for disaster management is going to be very important for the years to come, where individuals are able to check in saying that they're safe. or they are able to find information regarding refugee centers or safe harbor areas that they can then go to for relief and for medical assistance and aid. So it's definitely something. And Tushar, thank you very much for that. That was a very insightful point in terms of the use of social media. Now, what we'll do is we'll go across to Fakira, who, if she has any last words and comments. I think one of the important questions that we could possibly ask Fakira is looking at sort of a historical perspective. Where do you see, and the same question I asked Jayanti, where do you see social media for protests and movements really going forward in the next in the next maybe 5 years?
Media has emancipated itself in the starting from 2013 to 2016, because now you have the 90s generation which is in large numbers and them accessing the internet, and you've got more internet users because of technology advancements and how cheap now a smartphone costs and how cheap the internet has become. For example, Geo. Now imagine how many people will, you know, engage themselves on the internet. And I think as far as the advanced internet will not be just a virtual world where we have a second existence, but maybe a place where we breathe and exist as we are right now, where whatever we do online offline will have in same impact of on online. And I think social media will become a very important tool in all of the movements, all of the activism, all of the advocacy. As you see the Shreya Singhal case, as you see the Aam Aadmi Lokpal bill, as you see how internet users are now challenging policy makings. I mean, did you expect this 5 years ago that a medium like Facebook, where I would add my friends, would act at one point and help us change policies and question the government and speak our minds, and how important this this track on online is has become for our life, and how important it is for even journalists to post stuff on Facebook so that they can reach to more people than they expect to reach to their TV channels. You have children hooked on the phone all day, viewing news that nobody who sees the television all day, all night knows. I mean, I have been currently following so many news from all over the world, and I know so much. I know about so many activisms happening in the world. I mean, people are taking examples out of the activisms that happen online and taking or trying them at their own space. And I think our place and our world will become more connected, and people would actually talk about things that they never thought they could and raise their opinions, because it's become easy, it's become accessible, and now it's become cheaper day by day. And I hope that this space gets the legal protection that it deserves, and I hope this place uh, is not subject to the restrictions that it has, because it's a beautiful place for speaking against all the atrocities, against human rights abuses, against bringing new innovations, new changes in our life. So I think in the coming 5 years, we are heading to a bright, more active form of a future where people will speak against whatever they feel like, and or for whatever they feel like. Thank you, Rajat.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Fakira. Just to close up, of course, I have to mention and thank all our speakers here today, Jayanti, Raina, Fakira, of course, Deepshika, who unfortunately had to leave. Thank you very much for engaging on this topic. I think this is something that definitely is going to play a large role in the way movements themselves are sort of grow and really have an impact down the line. Just as a matter of saying thank you to certain people, I'd like to thank Bijo, who is this gentleman sitting over here. He is our social media wizard who's been engaging on Twitter as well as on YouTube, and he of course is available for any of your hashtags. We're using the hashtag MyInternetMyRight. to engage on any discussion surrounding this webinar, the previous one, or the next three that we've got planned. What I'll also do is I'll leave the links to our previous webinar in the description below, as well as you should see a card on the top right-hand side of your screen. Also, we leave a link to the main film that this webinar was based off, as well as the film that the previous webinar was based off. Our next webinar is on the 14th, which is next week, on the same time, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. This is India Standard Time, and September 14th of September 2016. Just in case anyone's watching this later, from 4 to 5 p.m. And finally, I'd like to thank the U.S. Embassy, the American Center, as well as Twitter for all the support in creating the films and actually giving us the opportunity to host this webinar for everyone here. Thank you once again to all my speakers, and thank you for watching and being a patient audience. I'd like to end the broadcast right now. Bye-bye.